Okay. Good morning, everyone, and thank you for joining on again for our Agile series session today. Let us get started. Yeah, so for those who are joining again for the first time, you can find our previous sessions in our chapter YouTube channel, Pearl City, PMI Pearl City Hyderabad chapter. We have recording all our sessions, not only Agile series, all other KSS sessions as well, and our flagship conference as well. You can look at the channel and get the recordings. You can see the over close to 14 sessions we have covered as a part of this series, Agile series, both season 1 and season 2. You can check the recordings, but for the knowledge purpose, you will be not getting the PDFs, but for the knowledge purpose, you will be getting the information if you see the recording. Okay, and coming to today's topic, we have Mr. N.K. Srivastava, who is CEO, Enterprise Agile Coach. He is a well-known person in PMI world as well. And today, as a part of our PMI PCC Agile Series 2, he'll be covering on very interesting topic, slicing and dicing of user stories. Right, as a part of Series 1 and Series 2, we have just talked about user stories, but we want to go a little bit deeper into the topic so that those who are working in agile way of working, this will be very interesting topic and more lot of practical aspects we will gain from this session. And now I will hand over the session to you, Mr. Srivastava. Over to you, Srivastava.
Thank you, Vinay. Thank you, Vinay. Can you hear me very well?
Yes.
See me, hear
Yes.
me? Okay. All right. Thank you, everyone, for this joining me on this Saturday morning. And we will talk about. Let me start sharing my screen here. Okay. Okay. So you should be seeing my screen now, and someone can confirm that. Yeah. Okay. Got it. Very good. So today we'll be talking about slicing and dicing user stories. I'm sure some of you who have worked in agile environments, worked in sprints, um, uh, you may be facing that challenge, because one of the things about agile is that you have to finish the stories within the same sprint, right? And I have seen invariably that the stories are passed from one sprint to the other sprint to the other sprint to the other sprint. That's a very common thing that I have seen in my last 10 to 15 years of agile coaching. So I researched on this topic and wanted to find more details, and I found it, and I started coaching my teams. How do you really do it? Because that is what is the thing, that how do you really do it? And this is what you will learn from this webinar in next 40-45 minutes or so. All my webinars are kind of very practical, so once you finish it, some of this you can apply right away. So I try to break it into very simple way of doing things. You will not find big jargons in my presentations. It's very simple, because I believe if you do very simple things, you can do a lot. Okay. I was looking at one of the interviews from President Barack Obama, and somebody asked me, what is your what is your advice to the young people, the people professional, what they should do or what they should master at? And his response was, they should learn the skill of getting stuff done. Okay. Whatever it takes, get it done. Okay. So if you are a part of agile team, if you have to finish a story, all the stories that you have planned for in a sprint, get it done. Whatever you have to do. And this plays a very important role, because it's hard to split stories. Okay, so it's very hard. So I will cover some of the very basic small things that you can apply when you go back to office on Monday. And some of you may be excited to do it right away. Okay, so we'll see how that goes. Okay, all right. So and all my webinars have a lot of interactive component. So I would like to understand a little bit more about you before I talk something about me. So let's go to uh, wherever with your tool, device, whatever device you have. If you can join me in this online collaboration tool called as Menti. Okay. So from your laptop, from your PC, from your iPhone, whatever device you have that's connected to internet. Okay. Go to menti.com and then type and enter that code. It will ask for a code. So code is displayed right here on the top. And we will interact. We'll use this tool, and I have a quiz also that we'll use this tool for. So you go there and type your response. So I know when I put it first time, it usually takes little time to get there. But don't log out. Just stay there. Keep it. Change your screen or whatever. So let's see what are your expectations from this webinar. Okay, how to break down a story. That's very obvious. Yes, absolutely. What else? I don't know how many people are in the webinar. I expect at least 50% of you to respond. If it is more than 50%, that's two people have responded. I know definitely there are more than 4 people here. Okay, I know that much. Okay, practical aspects on user stories. Okay, very good. Various scenarios. Yeah, we are going to talk about that. Definitely, we are going to talk about that. What else? And you can yet may have to write just 1 word or 2 words. What are your expectations? What are you interested in learning? What else? Practical aspects, how to break down stories, various scenarios, anything else. I know it is Saturday morning and everybody is so lazy, but then blame it on Vinay. He scheduled it at 10:30 on Saturday.
This is our regular cadence actually. Yeah.
People at Friday evening, they say, oh, the week is over. We can have some fun on Saturday. And then they are here, But I can tell you, this is going to be fun. Okay. I can tell you this is going to be fun. Okay, very good. Excellent. I got some more inputs here. Excellent. All right, very good. You can keep typing and it will keep coming, and you can see it on your device too. Okay, let's move on. So a little bit about me. And you are all from Hyderabad, right? So Hyderabad has a special place in my career journey. The reason I started my journey from Hyderabad, my first job was in Hyderabad. I started working with Electronics Corporation of India Limited, ECIL. Many of you may know it's Maulali outside Hyderabad, Secunderabad. And I lived in Tarnaka, just across the road from Osmania University. And I remember that campus. In week, we will cross that campus 2 times. We'll go to Barkatpura, have our Kachiguda, welcome Barkatpura, those areas, have our thali meals, unlimited thali meals. That was the key thing those days. And we'll walk through the Osmania. So Hyderabad has a very special place in my career. I lived there for 2 years. I learned Telugu, and also I developed the habit of eating vada. That's my favorite food. Okay, and after that I joined CDOT, went to Delhi, lived there for almost 18 years. So and worked in CDOT for 10 years. And that's where I started project management. Then I joined NIIT as a senior project manager, worked there with different clients in the US. That's when I started coming to United States. I live in the United States. I have been living there for the last 25 years. So in 1998, I moved there, worked in a company for 13 years, from senior project manager to director to vice president and all that. And then in 2011, I decided to quit the company and start my own company. My thought was, okay, what do I enjoy the most? That's not work for me. That's fun for me. And it turned out that connecting with people, talking to people related to project management, discussing project management topics is something that's exciting for me. That's not work for me. I enjoy this, like this presentation, what I'm giving to you, I enjoy this. So I like this. So I said, okay, let me set up a company that I can build around project management. So I started this company, RefineM. So we do agile coaching, project management consulting, process improvements, a lot of trainings. We have developed almost about 40, 50 different trainings in last 10, 11 years. Some of that you listed here. We have been associated with PMI. We are a ATP. And also I'm a certified agile coach. So that is all my journey has been in, from starting from ECIL, fixing computers, doing hardware, doing software development, then coming into project management. And now I'm running my own company. I have 6 full-time staff members in my team. And then I hire people on the basis of contract when we have the project or their training comes. I cannot do all the trainings. So I have other people who do training. Okay, all right, let's move on. And also I do webinars, like this, the kind of webinars. Every quarter I have a webinar on projectmanagement.com. So my next webinar on projectmanagement.com is going to be effective hybrid practices. So if you are interested in learning that, join my next webinar on projectmanagement.com. You are all PMI members, you know what I'm talking about. Yeah. All right, so some of the norms. So be present, be open, try new things, ask questions, don't hesitate, ask questions whenever the question comes to your mind. I may or may not be looking at the chat box, but I'm sure Vinay is monitoring the chat box, so we can have that conversation, and I will leave some time towards the end for the Q&A. Okay, now let's have another question from you. What are the primary drivers to split a user story? Why should we do it? What if you don't? Okay. So what are the primary drivers? Why should we split a user story? I know many of you, I don't know how many of you work on the agile environments and have to break bigger stories into smaller stories, but what's the driver? Why should we do it? And what if we don't do it? Requires more time to do, to create interest. MVP is a set of user stories, so it's not a small thing. Manageable, yeah, it's manageable, so that it's manageable. Yeah, it follow invest criteria, monitor. I don't understand that requires more time to do. I don't understand this. Okay, drill down requirements. Okay, yeah, so if you want to drill down requirements, yeah. So I guess requires more time to do is, yeah, but if you don't do it, yeah, get attention. Okay, prove the benefits, clear and deliverables. Very good, excellent, excellent. All right. So let me go back here. So first of all, you all know, many of you know what's the user story. So I don't have to spend time talking about what is the user story, but I put this kind of a refresher, so that we remind, okay, what is the story, and if somebody doesn't know, they learn this. but that's what is the story. You all know about it. So I'm not going to spend time on this. And then what is the good user stories? Are your stories independent? They are detailed. They are clear enough. And then there is this criteria. Somebody talked about invest criteria. Somebody typed invest, right? So a good user story is that follows this invest criteria. It's independent, negotiable, valuable, estimable, small or sized appropriately, and testable. Right? There are 6 aspects of this criteria. And if you have attended any user story training, they will go through this in detail. I'm not going to go through this detail, but I'm just reminding you what is a good story. And S part is something that is in context with what we're talking about. Sized appropriately so that it can be finished within a sprint. And just to remind you the difference between a story and an epic, that's the only difference, that epic take multiple sprints to finish. The stories are finished within a sprint. So epic may contain multiple stories and carry it through, but a story is not carried through. It has to be finished. Get things done, right? Remember Obama's word, get things done. Okay, all right. So why we talked about, you said, okay, this is the reason, but I will tell you a very simple reason. And that is something Henry Ford said, I don't know how many years ago, 60, 70, 80 years ago. So nothing is particularly difficult if you divide it to smaller pieces. So makes it easier, it makes the job easier. If it is big, then it is hard, right? If it is small, it is easy. So it's not something that we learned just in last 10 years or 15 years. But this is something Henry Ford said so many years ago. It makes the job easy. That's one major reason why you user split it. And user stories need to be small and independent to be effective. Independent to be effective means if it is independent, that you can deliver at the end of the sprint so that it goes to the customer and customer can start using it. That's what Agile is all about, right? Giving customer, the number one principle of Agile is satisfy customer through early and continuous delivery of valuable software. That's the very first principle of Agile. And this actually helps you to achieve that objective. If you have small stories, you finish it at the end of the sprint, you deliver it, right? So that is what, and the small stories better reflect business value and priority. So if the big whole epic can have a different priority, but if you have stories in 5 stories, each story may not have the same priority. So if you split, then you get that, okay? And our small and independent stories are easier to estimate. It's easier to estimate. The Fibonacci sequence goes like 1, 2, 3, 5, 8, 11, so on and so forth. So if it is small, you can say, okay, if it is maybe we can, in this sprint, we can take 5 user stories totaling about 20 story points. And that will not be one story of 20 story points, right? Or not of, you will have maybe one of the guidelines that you normally follow is that you should not have a user story more than that takes more than half of your sprint. So that's the size of the story that you want to have in the sprint. That is how much you need to break so that you can finish it within the sprint. So some people have many times the teams do like one story point is equal to 1 day of work, and there's nothing wrong in that. Many real agile people will say, don't equate with effort. It's a combination of effort, risk, and blah, blah things. But for the teams that have been using effort to estimate for last 20 years how they can change quickly overnight. Not possible. So I'll say, okay, start with that and then build other things into that. So simply, if you have a story that take 5 story points means 5 days, and if you have 10 days of sprint, that is what the maximum size of the user story should be. So each user story should be less than, or every user story in the sprint should be less than that or equal to that. Then you will be able to finish what you pick. Otherwise, if it is more than 5 for that sprint, or for this regular team size of 8 to 10 people. If you have more people, probably you can take larger stories in the sprint, right? All right. Okay. Now I will talk about how different scenarios. Somebody talked about scenarios for splitting the user stories. So we'll talk about different scenarios. So first is the operational part. Okay. So as a user, I can manage my account. That's the user story. So manage is the word that has so many things. Sign up for the account, edit profile, set payment method, cancel account. Maybe there are more operations that you can do with your account. So manage means all of this. So manage can become an epic. And then each one of them is a story. That is how you break a bigger story or epic into smaller stories, right? So look for the operational aspect. So that's one scenario. Second is complexity. And this is, you might have seen, as a traveler, I can search for flights between 2 destinations. If you fly, you do it. I do it all the times, right? Because I fly. So using flexible dates, you may say between these, that give me, I have flexibility in date. I can, based on the, particularly when I travel from US to India, which I did, and right now I am in India. So flexible date. Oh, I can see. Oh, if I, instead of Tuesday, if I travel on Wednesday, I get $200 cheaper ticket. Wow. Well, so this is one flexible date based on time of the day, morning, evening, afternoon. Usually Monday morning flights are much more costly than Monday afternoon flights. Okay. So giving the complexity, you can look at the complexity and divide that search story into those. So this is another, and remember, each one of these gives value. So we are not breaking the user stories into tasks. Okay, not that I will do the requirements, I will do the coding, I will do the testing, I will do the UAT. That's not it is actually each one of them still follows the value, it provides value and independently delivered or spike. So if you don't know, I can pay by corporate credit card. Now, how do I do the credit card processing? I can split that into investigate credit card, validate credit card, right? And then implement credit card that make the payment. So there's a spike, and then performance. In the beginning, you may not put any kind of performance criteria, but then you can add performance criteria. So your story is split into 2. First is just doing it without worrying about performance criteria. Second is, after putting the criteria, value stream steps. How do you deliver it? What are the different stages it has to go through? Like here, if you have an example of publishing news. So I can write a story to directly put on the website. I can write a story that it need to be edited by an editor. It need to go for a legal review. So there may be a story for the legal review. There may be a story for editorial in legal review. There can be a story for editor review. So you can have the different aspects of or different stages that a item has to go through. And then data variations, different languages, regions, So we can have stories written in for data variation, data entry. So one is that you enter the data, other is using UI, calendar UI. So you don't have to do both together. You can split those into two stories. And the last one here is a business tool. You can pick the business rule and split stories based on the business rule. So I have put here 8 different scenarios. I have seen that almost about 90% stories have one or more of these. I'll be more than happy to learn if anybody can think about any other pattern or scenario that one should look for in splitting the stories. This one slide is pretty valuable. Just this one slide for you if you want to split user stories, larger stories into smaller stories, a 20-point user stories into 5 and 8 and 3 and those kind of things, right? Anybody, they can type in the chat box if you can think of any other scenario, any other pattern. I'm not saying 100% they cover, there may be some other scenario, but from my own practice, from my own coaching, I have seen that this covers 85 to 90% of the scenarios that you can face in your user stories. Okay, I will pause here for maybe 5 seconds or so. Are there any questions? Yeah, you can type in the chat if you have any questions. Yeah, now it's a lazy Saturday morning. Anybody has any questions? All right.
Regulatory and compliance. Yeah.
Regulatory and compliance. So what pattern it will follow? So regulatory and compliance is the kind of industry or the kind of story it has, but what scenario it will have. So think about the scenario. If you can think about the scenario, will the story will have operational aspect, it has data variation aspect, data entry aspect. I can think about regulation could have data variation because the regulation can be applied to different set of people. You know, it could apply to different geographies. It like a regulation comes and it can if it gets implemented in different states or different municipalities, there could be little variation. So if it has to be implemented, let's say in 23 states in India, each state may have little variation. So if you are developing something, you're implementing something at the national level, okay, and it has to go to each state, then you can think of 23 user stories going for each for that regulation. So it may have data variation. So, but think about the pattern, think about the scenario. Okay, all right, let's move on. When do you split user stories? Many times. You have a lot of opportunities for splitting the user stories. You can do during product planning. I don't know how many of you do it, but that's how an agile project starts. That's the very first thing you do. You don't start sprinting. Okay, you start with the product planning. You develop your vision, your roadmap, your backlog, and all those kind of things. And I have seen many teams that just start with a sprint and then they are stuck. Okay, we don't have any story ready to go in the first sprint. So what do we do? They do some kind of product planning, and it doesn't take a lot of time. It is very quick. So that's the agile way of working. I have I have facilitated product planning sessions where you can finish product planning for even a 1 to 2 year project in 2 days. Just in 2 days, you can finish your product planning. And then of course you can have release planning if you need, if that's an optional. So you can do the new product planning, you can do during backlog refinement, and during sprint planning also you can split the story. Okay. All right. So what are the different approaches? So we talked about the patterns. Now the different approaches to splitting the story. The very first is slicing. Okay, our topic is slicing and dicing user stories, right? So slicing. When you think about slicing, think about a cake. You slice the cake vertically like this. So in this one, I do not have different layers of the cake. They're same layer, but there are 3 layers. But you may have a chocolate layer, you may have vanilla layer, you may have 3, 4, 5 layers. The cakes have multiple layers. So when you slice a cake, you slice it vertically, so that when you eat the cake, you get the taste of all the slices. You don't cut the cake horizontally. Never, right? You always vertically. That's how you cut the cake. And that's what is called a slice of the cake, right? So similar way, when you split a story, slice it. Don't cut across the layers. So if the layers of a story, when you develop the layers of a story, you have a database layer, you have a repository layer, you have a main objects, UI layer. Maybe there are more, right? So you don't cut it this way, that develop UI for this story, develop main object classes for this story, develop database for, no. Those are actually tasks. Because if you finished, let's say, the database part of the user story, can you deliver? You cannot. There is no value for the user if you just did one layer until you finished all the layers, right? So if you have a story, if you divide this story into 3 stories, I have those 3 verticals here. Okay, that's how for a invoice, view unprocessed invoice, approve invoice, reject invoice, or approve or reject. So the reject invoice should be the one story that goes across different layers in which the development has to take place. So once you finish all the layers of reject invoice, that's what the story should be. So very important part when you look at the pattern, but when you divide, then you need to keep in mind that your approach should be slicing, not across layers. If you are doing layers, you are dividing a story into tasks. And then your story will go from one person to the other person to the other person. And normally you will say, okay, here is a database guy, he will do the database work. So let's create a task for him in Jira or whatever. Okay, so your task, splitting a story into tasks is different. You may split it, but then that's not a story. Normally, in a tool like Jira, you create subtasks of a story. Okay, but don't create other tasks or other stories for that. You don't create a database story. You don't create a UI story. You don't create all those. You can create tasks, subtasks, and all those subtasks are part of the story. Okay, all right. The other one is you look for connector words. Okay, connector words are conjunction, for, and, or, if, but. If you see these things here in your story, then that's where you can. So that's where you can. They're like or, this or that. So this or that, 2 stories. Okay. Similarly, look for when, then, the verbs kind of a thing. Also, you can look for connectors as well as also any kind of comma, on click, something like that. So if you see these connector words, then that's the hint for splitting the story. Okay. And then if you have bullet points in your story, each bullet point could be a separate story. So look for those bullet points. Okay. So that becomes the way to split. Also, reviewing acceptance criteria is another approach. So we talked about slicing approach. We talked about looking for connectors. you're talking about looking for the acceptance criteria. Sometimes you have a very big acceptance criteria, very big acceptance criteria. Something like this, you know. So you see here, there are 4 parts of the acceptance criteria in this example, right? So each one of them could be a separate story, or maybe they can combine 1 or 2 and there could be separate user stories. So there's another approach is you look at the acceptance criteria of the user story. If it has too many acceptance criteria, like in this example, then you review the acceptance criteria and see if there is a possibility of splitting it. Okay, if there is a possibility of splitting it, and you will, like the last one, user will receive a notification. That could be a separate story, the user notification. And then you split that story, the acceptance criteria will be that whatever acceptance criteria is here. So you can look at the acceptance criteria, and then that will give you a trigger to break a user story. Now I'm going to talk about what are the steps to split. So there are 5 steps here. Okay. First of all, invest criteria. See if your user story satisfies the invest criteria. Independent, negotiable, valuable, estimable, right size, and testable. Does it have that? Okay, now that is satisfied, still the story may be bigger. Apply user story splitting patterns. I talked about 8 different patterns, 8 different scenarios. So see if any one or more pattern you see. That will give you a trigger to split the story. And after that, you can start looking at story splitting approaches. We talked about 3 story splitting approaches, right? Slicing, connectors, looking at the acceptance criteria. So we talked about 3 of those approaches. You can see if you can apply any of those approaches further. And then you can also do a spike. If you are still not able to do it, then a spike is a way to do it. Many teams do spike. They do little research, little POC to figure things out, and that's perfectly all right. And then at the end, you review the story size. And if story size is now all right and you think you can finish it within a sprint, that is great. And I can tell you that even if you think you can finish a user story in a sprint, you have 8 story points and you are running a 2-week sprint, you think you can finish art. But if you have an opportunity to split that story, do it. Maybe split that into a story of 5 story points and 3 story points. The advantage is then they can be developed independently. So that's the advantage you get. So even if it is doable, see if there is a possibility to split it, because smaller the better. You have more control on that. You can actually get more flexibility. You can prioritize those independent pieces, right? So let's say 8 story point you could done it, but now you split it into 3 and 5, and then you say, oh, the 3 is not as valuable as 5. Maybe 3 has less value. So can we push it to the next sprint or the following sprint and bring a more valuable story from the backlog into this sprint? You can increase the value for your customer. So you can do lot many things. You have lot many flexibility if you have smaller user stories. All right. So this is a little breakout, and we'll do only one because we have 20 minutes left. So I will say, I don't know if the breakout is possible or not, but I will put it to all of you, only the first one. Okay. Normally I can do, if there is more time, I can do more, but let's do only first one. So if you want to, the first story, how can you split, or what will be the resultant stories? You can share in the chat. I'll give you a few minutes to do that. Maybe 2 minutes. So there is no acceptance criteria. It is a story. Somebody is saying it's an acceptance criteria. It is a requirement. It's not an acceptance criteria. You can create an acceptance criteria that the message was actually sent. But this is a requirement. I need to be able to send a message. So this is a requirement that I need how the message is to be sent via email, right? That's what it says. Email or text, yeah. So what you're saying, Shriram, saying that how the message is sent. Yes, there are two ways of sending the message, email and a text. So there could be two separate stories. Excellent. What else? What else? So I can see the teacher setup message, permission. Yeah, permission to set up meeting, SMS or WhatsApp or email. Very good. I see. Okay, with permission. Okay, excellent. Provide permission. Set up a meeting or provide permission. So there is an or here. You see the connector word, right? The connector word that I was talking about. So or is yes. Excellent. Excellent. That's wonderful. Okay. All right. Let's move on. Let's move on. Okay. Very good. You get an idea, right? You get an idea. Uh, okay. All right. So let's move on. So there are some references over here, and you can go through these references. The video recording is happening. If anybody wants the slide deck, they can write to Vinay. I can send the slide deck to Vinay. They can write to Vinay. All right. So let's have a quiz. It should take no more than 5 minutes. Okay. So let's have a quick quiz, and the top two winners will get a prize. Okay, they will get a free access to any of these, any of the things of their choice. So essential gear for project managers is a set of 8 well-tested templates and procedures. I have a PMP exam simulator. You get a 3 months free. Agility assessment if you want to assess your team's agility. PDU Mandal if you want to earn PDUs. And then there are self-paced courses, Agile fundamentals and project management fundamentals. So one of those. Okay. So let's get into Menti, and let's I have 4, 5, 6 players. How many people are in the webinar, Vinay?
Close to 70 plus.
Okay, so I want to see 30 here. Okay, 15, 13 players. Very good. Yeah, you are going to have fun. And you will have more fun if you actually participate. You can have fun if you are still sitting by the side, but you will have more fun if you participate. I'll give you another 30 seconds, no more than 30 seconds. Got 18 players now. Okay, any more? 19, great. 20, 21. Yeah, it's going to be a good competition. So this is how this quiz will run. So there'll be 5 questions will come, and you have to respond to the question. If your question is right, you get score. Okay, and if you answer fast, you get more points. But if your answer is wrong, you get 0. So make sure you do answer is right and fast. You have to be right and fast. Okay. All right. Let's get started. So answer fast to get more points. That's the key thing. Okay. Many of you got it right. Yes. And the so that, right? That's the part of benefit or the value. So let's say who is leading here. So it will give you top 10. Okay, Nazia, very good, Nazia, and then Ashwin, 2 leading now. So let's go to the next one. What is the next question? Wow, most of you got it right. Excellent. That's very good. So let's see. Okay, is there any change happening here? Let's look at, okay, there's some shift happened down, but not up here. Let's go to the next one here. Um, yeah, we talked about 8 patterns, if you remember. This may be a tricky one. Let's see if you get it right. This may be a little tricky one. Yeah, it is split off. That's what I was expecting. Maybe you did not pay attention when I was talking about. So it is a little tricky question. It is data variation, right? English, Hindi, and all those kind of things, if you remember. Okay, let's see. Uh, Nazia Ashwin went wrong. Okay, let's see. There may be some upsetting here that will happen. Okay, Johnny has come up. Nazia is still leading. So this is the 4th one now. Connector words. Yeah, we talked about connector words. What are those connector words? Yeah, there may be confusion here. Okay, all right. So let's say what's the leader board here shows. Oh, Johnny. Okay, let's see who comes here second. Ashok. Ashok came here second, and now this is, I guess, maybe the 4th or 5th one. Yeah, this should be easy. This should not be confusing. Yeah, acceptance criteria. Most of you said it right. If it has a lot of conditions, Nazia, Ashok. Okay, let's see if there is any upsetting here. Okay, Nazia is the winner. Congratulations, Nazia, and Croc is the second. So if you send me an email, I will share my contact information soon. I will send you the price. Okay. So on a scale of 1 to 10, how strongly you will recommend this session to others? I saw 35 people playing the quiz, right? Yeah, not in the chat, in the tool. So the tool does the aggregation, which is good, which is what I would like to do. Okay, all right. So other topics, this is input for Vinay. If you want to hear about the other topics, you can type in here. And let's open it for while people type retrospective meetings. Yeah, that will be a great Agile estimation. Yeah, that will be another great topic. DevOps, excellent. Yeah, that's another great topic. So you have some very good topics here, Vinay, coming up. So you can note down these topics, and I will share this Menti also with you, Vinay.
Yeah,
Okay.
that will be
All
great.
right.
Yeah.
Okay, let's move on. So this is what we already covered. So larger story bring a lot of challenges. Slicing and dicing into smaller stories help improve agility. There are a lot of techniques available. So we have about 10 minutes left. Questions. You can ask questions. Open up your microphone if Vinay allows you, or you can also write in the chat. I will stop sharing. And you will get this slide deck if you write to Vinay. Vinay, I'll send you this slide deck.
Sure. Yeah.
Okay, any questions anybody has?
Please type in the chat. I can read it. I can take it up, and
Yeah.
Shrivastava can answer. Any session related to Scrum Master? Yes. We will plan one of the session in this series. Yeah.
Yeah, what is dicing? Very good question. That was just to give a title a fancy thing, man. Normally you say slicing, dicing means just breaking the things. Any exercise we can do to get perfect? Yes. Yes, the exercise is you take the user story. I give you lot many things like you look at the patterns. Start with the patterns, then with the approach, and also look at the connector words, acceptance criteria. So you take any story will become, and I have 4 user stories in my slide deck. You can take them as exercise. I have 4 user stories. We did only 1. So you can take the other 3 and that can become the exercise. And there's a Kanban question is, in Kanban, how perfectly the slicing be done? Okay, Kanban is a different word. Kanban actually doesn't require you to go so small because there is no sprint boundary in Kanban. Though the recommendation is that your story should be small, and actually there is more requirement there, they should be even sized. Because what happens in Kanban, you are not measuring velocity, right? You are measuring your lead time. So if your stories are uneven size, right, then your lead time may be different. Think about how lead time is, how much time does it take for a story to start to finish, right? That's the lead time. Lead time, and throughput is how many stories you finish in a week or a month. Those two are the parameters for Kanban: lead time and throughput. Now, if your stories are different size, so in the last week you took stories of that are 8 story points, and you were able to do only 2, for example. So your throughput for the week is 2. But if you took the stories that were 2 story points, your throughput could be more, right? And your lead time will be less. So it doesn't give you good idea. So the only requirement in Kanban side is that your story should be even sized, right? So, and many teams are not able to do it. So you can have 2 different swim lanes, one small size user stories, medium size user stories, and you can define what is small and what is medium, right? Small could be something which is no more than 3 story points, and medium is 5 and 8 story points, and whatever criteria you want to apply. And then you can say our cycle time and throughput for small stories is this, and cycle time and throughput for medium stories is this, and you can see if those are improving or not. So Kanban is different ball game. Okay, good question, Girish. Okay, is it right to increase sprint length during the integration phase? No, that's a big no. The sprint length is not to be changed. You can change the content of the sprint, but not the sprint duration. Okay, so if MVP you cannot achieve MVP in a sprint. That is not doable. So your MVP is usually takes multiple sprints. Okay, so can you deliver something to the client before the MVP? You will not be able to, but you can still complete the stories, get their feedback, and keep it ready to go, because the criteria is that your story should be production ready. It should be production ready. It need not go in production right away. That is why you have releases. Teams do releases. So releases means you combine the stories that were created in 3, 4, 5 sprints, and then you go and release. Many larger companies I used to coach at Wells Fargo, and they used to have quarterly releases. And if you see SAFe, that is how SAFe works. It has a 10-week release and a 13-week release, 2 months and the 2 months and 3 months releases. There, and then that release is like a MVP or addition on the MVP so that the customer can use it. But in every sprint, which is 2 weeks, the team delivers completed production ready stories. They don't go in production. Okay, so that's MVP can't be. So yeah, that is what I just explained to you, that still you need that slicing and dicing. for the user stories. Okay. All right. Any other good questions? Good questions. Any other question? Any other question anybody has? We have a couple of minutes left. And if you want to see my other webinars, there are recording of those webinars in on projectmanagement.com. So if you go to projectmanagement.com, on-demand webinars, and then on-demand webinars, if you search for my last name, it will see all my webinars for I have been doing for last 3 years. So you can see all my webinars there. There are recordings and slide decks. Since you brought SAFe, will the slicing and dicing process remain the same while we go? Yes, absolutely. Because the reason, Rudra Prasanna, the reason is whether SAFe or no SAFe, you are still working in sprints, right? SAFe, the lowest layer of SAFe at the team level is sprints. Then you go at the program level, you go at the portfolio level, there are 4 different levels in SAFe. So the portfolio management may use Kanban. Actually, in SAFe, it uses Kanban, right? But when you come down to the team level, it is still sprints. So the slicing and dicing is very much applicable even in scaling. Even if you do less, there is another method to scale. You do, what you call Scrum at scale. There are various methods, various different methods to scale, but it is still going to be okay. There is Anusha is asking, what if a user story seems too small to provide? No. So see, if it doesn't provide any value, it's not a story. It doesn't criteria. The invest criteria is not satisfied. It has to be valuable to the customer. If it is not valuable, then probably it's not a story. Why you should do it if it doesn't provide value? Or too small value means low priority. Don't worry about it. It's a low priority. Is the story mapping technique one of the Yes. Yes, Pradeep. Story mapping is one of the way to slice. Yes, because it basically it. If I want to relate it, it relates to in a waterfall world. It relates to like a WBS. You have the map. You start with the higher level product. You divide into epics. You divide into features. You divide into mappings and the smaller stories. Yes, yeah. So what is Vikas saying? Any scenario where in place of slicing, it is recommended to consolidate, combine multiple stories with a genuine purpose? Could be. But the thing is that, can you finish that in a sprint? If you cannot finish in a sprint, then it's no more a story. It's an epic or a feature. So it doesn't remain a story, and that's the key difference between story and a epic. Epic takes multiple sprints, whereas user story has to be finished within a sprint. In Scrum word, is Kanban word, whenever it gets finished, it will get finished. Okay. So there, in that case, if you have releases like a monthly release, whatever get finished in that, deliver that. And you don't worry about, smaller size, but only recommendation is even sized. Okay. What is the importance of facilitation technique or to be used while slicing and dicing? Yes, of course. If you are a Scrum Master or a product owner, normally this is about the requirements, right? This is not about the Scrum process. This is about requirements. So product owner should be in charge of this, not a Scrum Master. The Scrum Master has to ensure that this happens. But a Scrum Master may not have enough knowledge and competence to actually help in splitting. So that need to be done by business analysts and the people who are in the product side and in the business side. What about changes? Changes have to be dealt in a sprint. Changes are welcome anytime. during the sprint. So okay, so I think the time is over. That's what Vinay is saying. Well, nice talking to you, and connect with me on the LinkedIn, and I'll be more than happy to provide you my knowledge and experience in whatever way you can think of. Thanks, Vinay, for the opportunity to talk to the chapter members.
Sure, sure. Thank you very much, Mr. N.K. Srivastava. I think session was very interactive. I personally, I really like the way it went on. We have good participants as well. We can see the maturity in the questions, right?
Yep.
I'm very glad being a host of this Agile series. Thank you very much. And to honor you with from our chapter, a very big thanks from our board. We have my fellow board members. On behalf of our board members, thank you very much for taking out time on Saturday morning to give back to our PMI PCC community. And in the name of you, we have a ticket of 5 trees planted at Trees for Tigers, Sundarban National Park, West Bengal, on July 23rd. So you can,
Ah,
yeah, you'll be getting the email and you will be getting the code. You can check their, status. When you go to the website, you'll be receiving those details via email shortly. And thank you
very
very
good.
much once again. Yeah.
Very good. This is an excellent gift, Vinay.
Yeah.
Very good. Very
Thank you
good.
very much. Yeah.
Okay. Thank you. Thank you. Bye bye.
Right. So
Bye bye.
to take it forward, so yeah, upcoming PMP workshops, August 12, 13, 19, 20. And for more details, please contact our academic director, Sheshu Ganti, and you can reach out him via email, academy@pmi dash pcc.org, or you can reach out to him at mobile 9989136831. And as a part of attending this session with your PMA credentials, if you are registered, you will be getting one PDU in the category of way of working. And this PDU will be auto credited in next couple of days or max within a week. Okay. And that's it. Thank you very much on joining on Saturday morning. Hope you had really good no, learning experience. And I will receive the topic name from Srivastava. We will take a look at the topics and come back with the another agile coach who will be sharing their knowledge on the identified topics. Thank you very much and have a good day and rest of the weekend. Thank you. Bye bye.